What's up, AfterBuzzers? We are here with literally the first episode of The Young Pope, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Human beings in a mass. What's a mob to a king?
I do too.
And I feel like the God complex really works for this show.
I love this song, and this song makes me think so much. So when I first saw The Young Pope, I was like, we have to play this song.
You know, it's really the perfect choice.
Yeah.
Is Frank Ocean on this? Is this the Watch the Throne one?
Yes, he is. I know. It is Watch the Throne, so it's a throwback, but we are super excited to talk The Young Pope. But I just love this song. The song, I always tell the song, I tell my mom about the song. I'm like, you gotta understand, like, 'cause she's so religious, that the beginning of the song explains a lot. So if you are out there listening to this, go out and rap genius. What is the song? No Church in the Wild.
Yes.
No Church in the Wild. I told them to play the song, so I should know. So anyway,
passion
these
is
guys,
palpable.
I know.
Like, you guys, she was like, we have an
I'm
excuse
like,
to
I
play
got
Kanye
this.
today. And she's very excited. I love it.
So what's up, everybody? We are here about to discuss, literally, like I said, the first episode, season 1, episode 1 of The Young Pope. We are so excited. This is a crazy show already. So I'm your host, Jessie Zahner. You can find me on all social media at Athletic, and I have a beautiful panel next to me, and tell them where they can find you guys at.
Hey guys, I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique and every week at blackgirlnerds.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Al Gragg. You can find me on Instagram at alg_Jamaica House Film and on Twitter at SoundClashCine.
Nice.
So where do you guys want to start? What did you think of The Young Pope?
Just overall first impressions are, yes, thank God, because nobody does like soap opera character pieces like HBO, and I live for them because they don't necessarily need to be great full shows. Like, I don't need everything to be like top writing, like best editing, like really great pacing. I just want to like dive into these characters' lives and kind of like peek around, and it seems like that's going to be this kind of show, and I'm very, very excited.
Yes.
I love how you said soap opera. That was one of the first terms that occurred to me because, I mean, it's largely satire, you know? It kind of takes, like, that funhouse mirror and, like, tilts it at the Vatican. And, man, Jude Law's character, all he wants is, like, his cherry Coke Zero and a cigarette.
I know.
You gotta
I
watch
wish
his
I could be
figure.
like that. Like,
Right?
what does he say? I have a really small appetite, or...
He's very like a model, and
Yeah.
just like, no, if I just have my Coke and
Like
a cigarette, then I can get through
if
the
you
whole
have
day.
tips on how to wake up and just be like, I just want a Diet Cherry Coke, please pass those along to me, because I'd love for that. But let's get started. Let's get started right at the beginning. Like, even the intro to the show, I started wondering, like, what right off the bat, like, what is this going to be?
Are you talking about the very first shot?
Yeah, yes, like-
all of the babies?
Yes.
I was, trying to figure out what this symbolism meant, and I was a little overwhelmed by the amount. First of all, like, are these alive babies? There seemed to be one in like a sea of dead babies, and then one baby kind of twitched in the back, and I'm like, okay, I feel like maybe they're just napping, and I needed that for my own peace of mind. But the fact that he's crawling out underneath, kind of like emerging as like the one prodigal son,
Yeah.
underneath all these babies to deliver upon his people a new prophecy. It was a lot to take in. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about it or what it means.
The cold open, I thought it was bananas. Yeah,
Yeah.
super stylized dream sequence, you know, and I agree with what you said about him crawling out from the babies, like him being like the one that made it, but also, I don't know, because I always think about the political context
Yeah.
in terms of like dead babies. Okay, is it a statement on abortion? Is it a metaphor for
Interesting.
that?
I didn't even think about that.
I thought that was really captivating, and also the fact that when he gets into all that other stuff, I don't want to skip too far ahead, but when he gets into all the stuff that, like, okay, this is what you should be doing right now with this generation,
Right.
sex and blah blah blah. I was like, okay, dreams are subconscious, right? So this is what he
Yes.
really feels deep down.
Right. So the interesting part is this the intro? Is this what we're going to see at the beginning of every episode? The dead babies, him wake up from a dream, everybody... First off, HBO made the mannequin challenge. Did you know that? Like,
No.
for real, like... Think about it. The mannequin,
Westworld?
yes, Westworld, and now they're doing it again where he's like walking and everybody's just like at a standstill, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the mannequin challenge is back. But like, is that the intro? Is that the intro we're gonna see for every episode?
I took that as just for this, this cold open, but who knows?
I'm guessing. I'm hoping we get our. I really like HBO's intros because
I know that's why I'm obsessing about it.
Yeah, they use just one company usually, and then you get that like twangy guitar, and then oh crud, who's the guy that does all of their? It's not Nick Cave, but it's somebody a lot like Nick Cave. If you know me, damn it. He does a lot of the music for the opening title sequences for True Blood and a bunch of other stuff. He's like a great old lyricist, but because it's like the papacy, like maybe we'll get like a cool Italian opera opening.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it. I hope it's something different.
Well, I hope it's something because I love HBO intros. Like think about Boardwalk Empire. It was such a badass intro. Like every time you hear that song, I just get excited. So I was interested in how all of that. If that was actually the intro, because basically he goes up and he's giving his homily, and it's raining out, and it goes right into the show. So it's raining, and we see him part the clouds, and the sun comes out, and everybody's cheering.
I like that he performs what a lot of times in the Bible describes as a miracle, and it's these things that. I mean, rain stops and the clouds part and the sun comes out. Like, that's just a natural occurrence. But because it's him and it's happening in, like, a timed frame, he's like, yes, this is me, and I'm definitely performing this miracle. And I was wondering at the top of the show, before we got too far in, like, who made religion cool again? Like, I was curious before I knew it was a dream, it definitely seemed like he has this pop star status almost. Like, I've never seen people freak out this much.
Obviously, yeah, because he's the young pope. He's American, what makes him different from all the other popes in history. He's 47. He's not the youngest pope in history. Okay, yeah, and the ladies, they got like a nice booty shot of Jude Law for the ladies,
We did.
So, and like that opening sequence, it definitely reveals, just like, not just how cocky he is, but how like full of himself he is and authoritative. And I think that kind of reveals like his one sin. Like he actually thinks he's God.
Yeah.
Like he thinks he moved the clouds. He did the miracle.
He does.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he was a meteorologist. I'm like, this dude read the weather report, and he's like, I'm doing it right now. I'm going to clear these clouds. Like, I have a good meteorologist, I know. But no, you're getting right into it with the young pope. He is the youngest pope. He's also the first American pope.
Yes.
Did you guys pick up on that?
Yes, I did. The fact that he was preaching in English instead of Latin, I was like, blasphemer!
Yeah.
I was really shocked.
I was waiting for the
cool.
subtitles.
Yeah, me too, absolutely.
Well, at first, I didn't pick up on that right at the beginning of the show. So when he started speaking English, I'm like, oh, this is such a bunch of bullshit. Like, he wouldn't be speaking English up there. But he is the first American pope, and popes, I don't know if you know this, but they have to know like all of these languages. It's crazy.
Like are there like 4 certain languages they have to know, or they have to know like
I feel like they have to know like 17 or something.
That's a whole lot of languages.
Yeah, it's a lot. I know they have to know a lot of languages, so I feel like you have to have a certain intelligence for that.
Yeah, so obviously he has to meet all those criteria. So we know he's probably super intelligent, borderline genius. But like you're talking about, he's coming to rock the boat. He's got his bling. He's got his gold ring. He's pretty sure he's probably gonna bust out with the Prada shoes. And
right.
I don't know. I just love everything about it. He's there to shake things up. I don't know, as much of an argument you can make is that he's a hypocrite. It seems like what's going on inside the politics of the Vatican is a bigger hypocrisy.
Well, it's interesting, and I hope we have... I usually don't like flashbacks, but I'm hoping we get one, which is the conclave that shows him, because we get these kinds of mini conversations between some of the cardinals and bishops discussing, like, oh, they wanted... Like, it was a choice made politically to put him there, and they gave off the sense that Cardinal Voiello was the one who set him up to be there, and I guess... He felt like he would do his bidding, that Pope Pius would follow whatever he said. What kind of game was he playing before where people thought he was going to be easily controlled?
Yeah, it totally backfired in his face.
well, the only visuals we have of him are being very headstrong and just doing whatever the F he wants. Like, there is no consideration or thought or, like, he's got one path and he's determined. So I'm curious if before he was putting on a really good act, or if this Voiello was just so confident that he thought he could change the tide somehow. Right.
Go ahead.
I think you nailed it in the sense that because Jude Law, what I love about his character is that he's so self-aware. I mean, he says he's vindictive and intransient, but he also says he's like, he never allows people to know what he's thinking. So I'm sure he confounded people with what the kids call today fake humility.
Well, he did tell that one nun that he does not like friendliness.
Yeah.
Which was my favorite speech ever. And I feel like a lot of people wish they could use that during work.
Yeah.
But I really want to tell people at work, like, look, I just don't appreciate friendliness. And if we could just keep this professional, I would feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, so you hit the nail right on the head. So basically, Voyello is behind all of this, and he kind of got everybody together and was like, we need to vote this guy in because he's going to be a puppet for us. We can basically manipulate him. We don't have to do all the work. We manipulate him to do what we want, and that's how it's going to work out.
And also, I think for a PR move, just kind of project a younger, more hipper pope
Well,
as opposed to conservative ones.
I'll be interested to see if that was the case, because right now we don't see, like, it doesn't seem like there's an influx of people other than in his dream, like, flocking to the church because there's this new guy. We haven't seen anyone planning to use his youth to, like, get a better visual. Like, it seems like a no-brainer. Like, of course, that's why you get a young pope. You want to bring the youth back.
Right.
But we haven't seen any of that yet. All we see so far is someone thought they could use him as a puppet, which still seems so... Just what were you thinking?
Right.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know. I'll be interested to see. I hope that we get into some of that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, some of the stuff is like borderline heresy. It's like he has this little mole who's like the coolest, like most humble priest, and he's like, I want you to tell me what they confess.
Oh my gosh,
I know. I have
But-
a lot of feelings about that guy.
But then he has the nerve, and this is what I also love, he has the nerve to turn around and check what's his name? Voyello for gossip. You know what I mean? He's so, like, he walks on, like, both sides of that line.
We just don't care.
So going back to the beginning, we see him wake up from a dream. He still hasn't given his homily yet, and that's something that he's been thinking about. I guess he's dreaming about it. And we see him show up to breakfast, and he mentions that he wants his Diet Cherry Coke, and that's basically all that he wants. And he has that conversation with the woman. And we start to see his personality. Now, one part that I know I mentioned right before we went on air was the radio. The radio got me because I couldn't understand what was going on. Like, the radio kept coming in and out, and it's something that he mentions, the signal in here is bad, but I just don't know what the significance of the radio is.
To me, it seemed like a way to block out the white noise of just his head. He's always either talking or doing something to distract himself from thought. So he smokes a lot of cigarettes. He, like, goes into these dreamlike sequences of, like, planning his future and his new steps, or he's listening to the radio. And I think maybe he doesn't just want to be in his own head. And especially because we knew he grew up in an orphanage where a lot of times it is difficult to make long and lasting relationships. Maybe the radio was like an outlet there.
Okay.
Which actually totally makes him like a product of our generation. I don't know what's the generation they call now who's all hooked on the internet. Not millennial, but maybe the previous before, like Gen X generation. Just need the distraction.
Interesting. Yeah, because we actually see that one flashback really early on when he's like sitting at a tree and there's like this older woman like basically naked.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about, but I'm thinking that there are a lot of things in his childhood that we're going to uncover as the season goes on.
It's kind of like what I loved about that dream sequence. I think part of it is flashback, and part of it is, his subconscious. So we don't get to know.
That might have just been a dream. Yeah, I was assuming it was.
There's some girl he's fantasizing about. Whether you had her naked at the pond.
And we see a little bit in the clips for next week that maybe somebody gets some action. But actually, what's up? Because we have people in the chat. Hi, chat.
Hey guys.
So Casey says she did a fact check for us. Pope Francis speaks Italian, Spanish, and German. So he knows 3 languages.
Perfect.
And then they think the babies might be the innocent souls that the Catholic Church feeds on.
Interesting.
So they keep just starting with very large political statements right up at the top. So thank you, chat. Appreciate it.
Interesting. Wow. Did she say Pope Francis?
Yes.
Okay. So he speaks 3 languages?
Italian, Spanish, German.
Does he not speak English?
I guess he also does speak English. I've heard him speak. Wait,
I don't know.
He?
I don't know.
I thought he spoke English,
I
but
just
we
felt
never
like they
heard
had.
it.
I just felt like they had to know a lot of
Latin.
Yes,
He
a
definitely-
lot of languages, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
So we get to the part where so aside from, I know we're talking about like the dream sequence and his first breakfast and all of that, but we kind of flash to another part. This episode kind of goes all over the place, but we see this man who's upset and he's about to slit his wrist and kill himself.
Yes. I say yes because I like that actor, not because I was excited he's going to kill himself. I just, he is stunning, and every time he shows up, he just completely kills it. If you guys haven't seen The Nick, he gives a great couple performances in season 1, and he's brilliant. But yes, and we get to him, right, as they're talking about Pius's mentor.
Right.
And the fact that, like, what's he going to do now that his buddy is, like, and apparently he is distraught at this, either at the thought of him being Pope or maybe something else. We're not quite sure yet. I get the feeling that it's because this guy.
I got two things from that. Okay, I don't know whether it's his name is Pope Spencer, not Pope, Cardinal or Priest Spencer, James Cromwell, and it's like two things we discovered. You know, the guy has like he's obviously might suffer from severe depression and suicidal thoughts because the show him taking it. And I don't mean to laugh, but it's the way it's filmed. It's filmed so comically.
Right.
But they're trying to take the straight razor out of his hand. But yeah, I felt like so. The other thing, so maybe he's not. Like I said, he struggles with mental illness, and maybe he regrets the decision of like bringing like this new pope under his wing.
Well,
look
that's a really interesting
happens.
question, because I feel like if you are Pope Pius's mentor, if you knew him before as just this kind of kid from the orphanage, and you like brought him up into the man he is today, you've got to know what unholy hell is about to rain down on the church.
Like, typically, wouldn't you think like, oh, I'm so excited, this person that I'm mentoring, it has...
Not
you know what I mean?
That kid though, like he's probably, here's how I imagine him. Like, he's a good priest, and he's like, I can make this kid's life have meaning. Like, he's found this faith in God, and he's come, and like, yeah, he's not a great kid, but maybe we can mold him, and he just keeps trying to adjust and make it better, and the kid just keeps going further off the path and further off the path, and then somehow he's Pope now, and you're like, the hell, it's too late. It's a runaway train of disaster.
But what leads a person to kill themselves about this? I mean, that is against what he is preaching every day as a priest or as a cardinal.
If you think, well, okay, so we got a little bit of flash forward of it, so I don't want to predict from that, but in watching the show, it appears like maybe this guy, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but
that's fine.
The joke of like, I don't believe in God, in giving your confession not to a person, but to God's house, in choosing to break the vows of like coercing a break in the vows of confession. This guy stands against everything the church stands for. Right. So maybe it's the idea of like, who cares if I kill myself? This guy's about to destroy this thing I've dedicated my whole life to.
And in a certain sense, too, that's one of the things I'm really starting to like love about this show, is that it's so irreverent. You know what I mean? Including down to each character. James Cromwell's character, he may experience all this regret. You know, we're going to find out later, but just the fact that you could have like a pope, you know, who's like feeling like that distraught. Yeah. He has emotional issues, and you know, you have the one pope who's busted staring at the fertility statue. You know,
he's a cardinal. Yeah. Another guy is he a bishop or a cardinal? I'm not sure.
Cardinal, bishop, but I mean, like they all have these like human frailties.
Well, it's so funny.
It's Cardinal Michael Spencer. And then Cardinal Voyello.
Yes. It's so funny because you think of the church and you think of these popes and these cardinals as, oh my gosh, like they never sin, they're so holy, they could never do wrong. But we know this in reality, that that's not how things always are. I mean, we know this. We know this stuff goes on.
Yes.
Well, they're still human beings, flawed individuals.
Right. But it's so interesting to see, like, politics behind who becomes pope, and then also the sins that these guys
That's why I want to go back into the conclave, because it's like, it's a thing you could never ever sit on.
Right.
And so to get any kind of dramatic depiction of it, I think it's kind of exciting because it feels like you're getting in on a secret.
Yeah.
We actually have Janelle Freeman in the chat says, Jude Law reminds me of Frank Underwood from House of Cards. He is totally playing all of them.
Yes, he definitely is.
And also, I got to chime in about the Cardinal Voelio. Okay, there's something, I mean, obviously, the reason I'm kind of rooting for Jude Law is because this guy is even worse as far as like being, you know, crafty and, you know, and Machiavellian. But when you do the close-up, they go to all these extreme close-ups of this mole on his face.
Oh my god, the mole is just, like, it's distracting.
From that down to like the overweight cook, you know, who's like tears in her eyes. Basically, I mean, to me, it's clearly making a visual metaphor of the old guard, and it's kind of like toxicity.
Yeah. So tell me, because I wanted to ask you guys whose side you were on, but why do you think Voyello is so like corrupt? Why are you not on his side?
I don't even know if I'm on. Well, I just like Pope Pius because it's so different and he seems so deliciously evil, and I tend to like villains.
Yeah.
But I think Voyello just thought he was going to get himself a cushy position.
Right.
I honestly think he's just comfortable. You know, he's wealthy. The Vatican is it's run like its own country. So he's a top official. He's got a lot of power. And without putting himself in the line of fire, so to speak, he was going to get to control things from behind. And I think the more he sees it, because you can see he can play the verbal game very well. He knows how to throw an insult without it being direct in a way that can kind of smooth by. Unfortunately, he's got a really smart opponent across the table. So I just think he's upset that he's not getting everything he wanted. And I think he's going to come, if he can't get it this way, he's going to try to find another way.
Right.
And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that perhaps when he was like a young priest coming up, you know, he was totally innocent and his faith was pure, and he gets corrupted by power, like a lot of people do. Like we're saying, you know, popes, cardinals, you know, they're all people, you know, power corrupts. But I do got to shout out, there's like this African cardinal.
That guy was dope.
Yeah, along with the other cardinal or a priest who takes Jude Law's confession. Like those guys, to me, they embodied like spirituality.
Right.
And I think this is where it's going. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think that's going to be Jude Law's arc because he's so like kind of seedy and corrupt and self-aware that he's that way.
Yes.
I think there's like going to be like spiritual growth on his side. Like either he's going to come to God at the end or God's going to come to him. One way or another. Give me a few
I don't
seasons.
think he's coming to God. But...
Give me a few seasons.
But this is a limited show, so it's got a definitive beginning and end. It's going to be just like the night of, which is what the minute I found out it was limited, I was like, oh, so he dies at the end. I'm very excited. I don't know. That's my prediction for the show so far. Is that Jude Law will be either murdered or probably murdered.
Yeah.
Probably murdered, because I think we're going to get like
How do you think he's going to go, though? Because he's in the Pope Mobile. I mean, we haven't seen the Pope Mobile.
I don't think
Have
it's going to be from a public perspective. I think it's going to be very much like the Borgia, in that, you know, a family. Like, he doesn't have the whole biological family aspect, but he's got people that he's chosen to be close to him. He's blackmailed certain people into helping him.
Yeah.
And I think his guard is going to be taken down in a very like old Roman backstabby way.
So I actually want to talk about that, about his family, because we see him flashback and we see that he basically is being raised. He goes to an orphanage or something like that, and Sister Mary comes out and she's very young and she kind of takes him in. And we see her come up later and talk to him, and she has some pretty wise words for him in their conversation, where she talks about your personal life has to take a back seat to what you're going to do now because you're the Pope, and that, you know, she actually says a lot of really powerful things. Basically, he's like in charge of a fifth of the world's population, 1 billion people he's going to have to speak to and kind of like, you know, be in power of. So she says everything in your personal life is going to take a back seat, and this is a really powerful responsibility that God has given you.
Which I find interesting, because when it comes to getting her comeuppance and basically what she gets because she's close to him,
right?
She's very silent and like she's like, yeah, this is good for me. Like I definitely want to disrupt an entire system that's already been put into place, even though I'm excited about ladies getting some power within the Vatican. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not the way anyone inside of the Vatican would go. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of happy just to steamroll over things and not kind of go in a political manner of obtaining that power. So I wonder how much she really cares about these things, in the same way that I wonder how much Pius really cares about making a difference, or how much power they actually want.
I actually believe in her faith, but like every other character, she's obviously more complicated, because when she was laying that on him, it was almost like, you know, like you have to be like Mother Teresa. That's my only perception of that kind of saint, how you can be that much of an empty vessel. And when you hear that, it's impossible. It's impossible. So, I mean, otherwise you would just end up a repressed person who ends up acting out in ways that I'm sure we're going to see. But this is what I wanted to clarify, though. We were talking about how our Pope Lenny, Pope Pius XIII, is going to get his comeuppance. I think, just going out on a limb, it's not going to be like a come to God moment, but it's going to be a God reveal, in the sense of, like, you know how he thought he was the one who parts the clouds. God gets the kind of last laugh and shows him, no, I'm the one that parts the clouds.
That'll be interesting, because we don't get the presence of God yet at all. Yeah. It's a very, like, man-driven show at this point. So I would like to see, like, I am not a religious person, but I love religious tales and stories, so it'll be really interesting to see if they do decide to bring God in and how that affects him.
Right, it's really interesting, because we also see a lot with Jude Law. We're really getting to know him in this episode, and we see a part where he is confessing. I know we talked a little bit about this, and he's making the statement, like, I don't believe in God.
But it is amazing.
I mean,
and you know what? I said that beyond like baffling. I gotta give him I gotta give him props for an ounce of humility and honesty that those other cardinals don't have.
Well, but
just
then he's like, I'm just joking. Which
I
is
don't
like,
think it was a joke. Here's what I think.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a joke.
I mean, the idea that okay, so first of all, I want to break it down because he said something very interesting. I don't believe God is capable of saving me from myself, which to me doesn't say that you don't believe in God. It's that you believe you are better and in a higher position than God, which is hysterical because if you believe in God, then He created you, and how do you bigger or better than the person who created you? I don't understand.
But he's like a narcissist to the 10th degree.
Oh, he
right.
is.
Yeah, or I'm so powerful that God can't even save me from myself. It's just it's a narcissistic circle of grossness. And then, yeah, poor Tommaso.
Oh, I love him.
I love
Which one was
how
Tommaso?
beautifully complicated he is. He's the one
He's
who
the
was
priest that
the
everybody.
confessor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The one that was taking confession, rather. So the idea of he was like, oh no, I can't break my vows. Like, it's the one thing I have. It's the only ounce of power I have. He's like, yeah, so far. And it was great to see Tommaso go from what I thought was like humble, good servant to ambitious pirate like everybody else.
Yeah, but it's like, what do you do when the
Pope?
Pope? So this is a good part of the show that I really do want to focus on. So we get Pope Pius goes to what's his name?
Tommaso.
Tommaso. And he says, tell me all of the sins that people are confessing to you. The reason being is because we get this very knowledge is power, and basically
Yes.
people are going to use blackmail to get to each other. So he wants to know what everybody's confessing so he can kind of use it against them. And this guy's just a priest, and he at first is very innocent, like, no, I can't do this. And then he starts giving all these things away. But at the same time, when the most powerful man in your religion or in your world, I guess, comes to you and says, I need this information, when are you allowed to break it? I mean,
and that's what I mean. It's like these people are in impossible situations. It's
Sure,
like
sure.
who can be an imitation of Jesus Christ, or probably even maintain that position, without having a little bit of cunning. But this is what I want to say, though. I want to say that Tommaso, who I love, I think he kind of ended up splitting hairs, or kind of splitting the difference, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't actually say such and such confessed to this. He ended up going with the they say, and here's how they feel.
Yes, he did. He was careful.
Which is
in
almost as
whatever-
bad, but yeah.
And he was actually asking the Pope more questions than he was giving information. So his rumors were vague, which means he can't really get in trouble with anybody. This is why I have weird feelings about him, because he's rat-faced, and that really bothers me. Like, if he were like, I'm ride or die with the Pope, I'd be like, that's my boy.
Right.
But because he's so
kinda on the
wishy-washy,
fence.
I'm
Yeah.
like, he will go wherever it's strongest, always. And
Right.
that is not a good person to have by your side ever.
That's a good thing to point out.
Which is a critique people can say of organized religion. Not me, I'm just saying a critique. which is any organized religion.
So let's go back to where Tommaso is getting confession from Pope Pius, because we see him say, okay, tell me your sins or whatever, and he's like, I have no sins. And then he says something about his conscience
My conscience won't let me.
let me.
Yeah. Well, it's not find guilt.
He's basically saying, like, whatever my sins are, my conscience isn't making me the one responsible for these things, which is really interesting. This is like really scary for the Catholic religion, because he is a sociopath.
He's totally a sociopath.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
he's scary. Like,
Yeah.
he has no conscience, and he is a narcissist in that he thinks he's better than himself.
He doesn't believe the rules apply to him. And then even Voyello said when he found out, he's like, oh, well, he doesn't have an appetite. He's like, dang it, that's not good for us. Because the guy's not greedy. He's like very patient. He's got a plan. He's going to wait and make sure that plan gets taken out. And he doesn't care who he hurts. Like, again, this old nun is just like, oh, you're so
I
sweet.
know.
And all she probably wants is to be able to brag a little that she gets to kiss the Pope and like bring him the things he wants. And he just tears her down, like all the
I
way
know.
down in such a public and like
It was so
disgraceful
sad
manner.
that she was crying.
Yeah, no, oh, it's so good. It's so, like, I just love evil characters, and I'm really excited to see, especially as relationships build and then crumble, how he decides to further tear people down, especially the career-hungry ones. I think Voyello's fall is going to be fast and very dirty.
Yeah, I'm still curious as to what his ultimate plan is, because clearly he didn't, I mean, from what I'm getting, he didn't want to be Pope, but he wanted somebody that he could manipulate to be the Pope. But what is his goal? What is he trying to get?
I think he just wants to be the Dick Cheney of
Yeah,
the George
I don't.
W.
Yeah,
Bush reign.
I just think he just wants the power.
Yeah.
Be the man behind the throne that, that pulls the strings.
But
he wants all the money with or all the power without any of the responsibility. Like
Yes,
I say
exactly.
what goes, but if it fails, well, that's on you. And then when the next person comes in, I'll make sure that
But
I'm
I
in a place of
feel
power.
like there's like a mission, like there's a plan that he wants, but I don't know what it
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is yet either.
So, it is really interesting when the cook comes out and like kind of like messes with his face and everything, because he is the youngest pope and she's older than he is. So I kind of took it as like your grandmother comes up and like pinches your cheeks and everything. I thought it was a really cute moment, and then he totally crushed her, which was really sad.
And awesome.
And at the same time, I mean, we can't say that move she attempted was not maybe slightly manipulative. That's not without like a little like self-knowledge.
It's a little inappropriate. And like, you don't really know me. We haven't created this bond of like you being able to touch and kiss up on me. Like, it's weird. But I also think that especially you expect your pope to be like warm and kind of friendly. Like, you expect your pope to be a pope of the people, not a pope of like desire for anything but servitude. That's kind of the ideal of a religious figure is, oh, you're in servitude to those around you. You help the less fortunate. And I think this has got to be such a shocking blow to her to be like, oh, so not that kind of pope.
Right. It's definitely, it seems like it's different for her. It's interesting. One thing, let's go back, because Janelle Freeman also wanted to mention what she thinks is going to happen at the end. So she says she thinks another pope will come in and be even more corrupt. And it will just go on and on and on.
Let's see. That would be interesting, but because we've established this story as specifically his story, I'm not sure if... Well, it doesn't seem to... At this point, it doesn't seem to establish a caring of the Vatican as a city or the whole future of it. It seems to be just about this guy and what he does during the Vatican. So... And I don't know if we'll get that much since it's such a limited series. I'm not sure how long we'll go with him. Right. I don't know if this will be just a couple of years.
How many seasons is it for?
It's just this one.
Really?
It's a limited series.
Okay.
So it's a short series. I believe there are 10 episodes, though don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so I don't know if we haven't seen in any promotional materials him aged greatly. So I have a feeling it's going to have a very short, and again, I want a very classic Roman backstabby, like, Caesar-esque death. And if you guys know your history of the papacy at all, like, there's some really fun, I don't want to say fun. At one point, a pope resurrects a dead man, puts him on trial, and then has him re-killed. Like,
what?
I will bring in some good, you know what? Maybe that's what, I'll bring in some really good stories of the papacy, because there's so many cool, like,
maybe we could do, like, a segment just... this kind of stuff, because this is interesting.
There's a lot of like good murders and like we haven't even gotten into the Borgia, and it's very well documented. There's some fun stuff.
Well, definitely, we want to see him. I want to see the young pope kind of succeed, but I also want to see him get his comeuppance. But I'm holding out for some type of arc, because he's starting out so far over here. I feel like there's got to be some layer or some sliver of humanity or spirituality that he can embrace. And I'm saying that to, I think that's what's kind of like the theme of the show that we're going to learn, is that religiosity versus spirituality.
Right.
People who are religious versus people who are spiritual and actually have a relationship.
We do kind of get that with priests. I'm so sorry, guys, I don't speak Italian, but Triregino, I think is how you say his name, and he was the one who's like, the Pope comes and he says, so everybody says you're really good, and that you're just, you're kind of the best. And then they have this, I'm not quite sure what their conversation amounted to at the end, but I know that they are not playing for the Satan team. Yeah. And I'm kind of excited to see if this definition of goodly priest versus this clearly corrupt and sociopathic pope get to go head to head.
Right.
Especially since they're both so young and seem so advanced in their careers.
Interesting.
I'm excited. I want Trigeno to be his main enemy.
That'd be interesting.
Yes, but that guy was good. He had a good back and forth. He was quiet. He was listening, which makes me think that maybe he will also be a good planner.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So I know you mentioned Al, you think that we'll see like a more human side of the Pope. So do you really believe maybe he's just coming out really hard at the beginning to kind of set the tone, like you're not going to manipulate me into doing what you want? Or do you think he's like a true sociopath? Because from what I'm getting, I'm like, this dude is just getting started.
I believe he's just getting started, and I don't believe he's thinking that once I get in the position, then I can implement, my new godly plan and let my hair down and finally be myself. No, I think like he's like you. He's like, he's like going for it as far as like he wants all the money. He wants everything on the table. But what was I gonna say? But this is what I mean. I'm tempted to believe though. I mean, you know, I'm trying to figure out what's going to be his Achilles heel. And we know arrogance and all that, but something that's also, I think, going to be reflective of one of his own frailties going to bring him down. And that's yet to be revealed.
I agree. And we get it in this moment where he kept, and back to the radio, this idea of him constantly needing something in the background.
Right.
Like, because a lot of people say that God exists in silences, and that these are these profound moments you have when you're sitting alone or talking with God. And he even says that on the roof when he's giving his confession. He's like in God's infinite silence, and he says it over and over and over again. But he's not quiet enough to ever get to a silent moment.
So do you think he is afraid of what God has to say to him, or do you think he's afraid of God in general?
I'm not sure what he's afraid of yet,
Yeah.
but there's clearly a childhood trauma. And I think this is going to be the cornerstone of this character.
Right.
This trauma that led him to God, but also not to trust God. And I think seeing how that plays out will be fascinating. Like, I'm kind of hoping next week is a more backstory filler episode. But knowing HBO and what I always wanted from the night of, which was like, go back and explain things.
Yes.
Is that we'll just keep trudging forward and have to kind of piece it together ourselves. So
Right.
either way, it'll be fun, but I kind of want some confirmation on what the horrible thing that happened to him in his past was.
Right, so let's talk about his past, because we do see a few snippets here and there, but one thing we see is this, he has something with him that his father had given him.
Yes, it looks like a pipe.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was, but he's kept that his whole life, even up until now.
Even though you're supposed to give up all your earthly possessions when you join the priesthood. Sir. Again, just no rules apply to him, sociopath. Yeah, it'll be interesting because what I found interesting was he called Sister Mary his mother.
Right.
And
Ma.
it
Yes.
concerned me because I wasn't sure if that was him seeing his mother for the first time in a long time, going Ma, and her being like, no, I'm Sister Mary now.
Right.
This is our relationship. Or if he was trying to attach himself to someone new, like, are you my new mother?
Exactly.
And her being like, nah, son, this ain't it.
I know. What did you think about that, Al? Because I was the same way.
Yeah, totally. I totally thought both of those are correct.
Yeah.
But going back to the pipe thing, though, too, also, I mean, it might be kind of on the nose. You know, he smokes 1 cigarette a day because his father had the pipe. I don't know if that's too on the nose, but I think we're gonna find out what's going on with him and his father and the type of relationship that we're gonna find out a little bit deeper. And just to echo what you guys were saying before, when we talk about somebody who can't be alone with themselves, they can't be alone with God or alone with them thoughts. I mean, you know, he's running scared at the end of the day in his subconscious.
Yeah. It's weird to me that he seems to have no, if Sister Mary isn't his biological mother, he has no desires to talk about. He was quick to try to erase her. But his father, he really wanted to hold on to. So,
Right.
Again, I think whatever the childhood trauma is will relate directly back to that. And it'll be interesting to see.
Right. I'm so like filled with questions. Like, is that his real mom? I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is this her child? And she had to
I'm
like
curious.
go elsewhere and have him, and then like come back and like, oh no, remember you're gonna call me Sister Mary now. It's like, I'm like,
Chat,
oh my
give
gosh.
us your thoughts on what you think his
Yeah,
childhood
please
trauma
do.
might be. 'Cause I'm curious.
Yeah, I do think there's going to be something in the childhood that comes up, but it's so interesting to just think about a leader in the Catholic Church who doesn't believe in God. It's like this is like I can't stop thinking about
Irony
it.
is an understatement.
Well, and poor Tommaso looked like he was having like when you pose a theoretical question to a robot and they're like, cannot compute. He was like, what are you even talking about?
I know.
But,
Yeah, I know. He's like, oh, I'm
Signore,
just
like,
kidding.
no, what? A joke.
But like,
Ha-ha,
there-
thank goodness.
There must be times where people question if this is all true, don't you think?
That's what I'm
like,
okay. That's
we're
what
human.
That's what I kind of come back to. I think everybody goes through their trials and their lapses of faith. His may be perhaps a little bit longer,
Well, here's the
his
difference.
entire life, but
I think if you look at like some famous popes, there's a lot of times when like they just struggled and then found God, or they had faith and then they lost it, but they came back. The difference is we tend to honor them like once they come back and they're locked into this belief. And I find it. So at different times, the Pope has been more of a religious figure, and sometimes much more of a political figure. And so when we look at political figure popes, we can easily see like, yeah, your faith was not really the reason you're here. And okay, cool, you were doing a thing. But I think in this day and age, when we expect our popes to be more religious figureheads than political ones, it would be incredibly shocking to be like, oh, so no God for you for real, though?
Yeah.
How are you leading these billions of people who have this faith, though? But he made the interesting comment, or Sister Mary said, Rome is a suburb of the Vatican. He's like, not yet, but it will be, which to me says he definitely wants to be more of a political pope.
Yes, I agree.
Which is,
That's a good point.
a much more fun story-wise.
And I'm going to take it a step further when you're talking, we put on your, little tinfoil hat, is Sister Mary, his mom. I'm going to, take it a little further, and perhaps, who knows, maybe it's God's will at this particular time that even though this Pope didn't, quote, believe in God or he struggled, he was a vessel for what he needed to have happen.
Yes.
And he was the most efficient person for the job.
Yeah,
I don't know, in
could
the
be.
long run, we'll see.
Again, if they bring in God, I would be shocked. I don't think it's going to happen.
yeah,
I think we're going to stay in a people placed in very scary space. But it's also going to be exciting.
Yes.
Somebody said, Janelle again said, I think Diane Keaton will surprise us with her real motives by 4 or 5.
Okay.
It would be interesting to see if her motives were completely different than what Pope Pius has planned.
Yes.
I mean, dope. Again, I'm all about seeing ladies try to take some power in Vatican City.
Yeah, I was shocked that he appointed her to that position because I was like, is a woman even allowed to do whatever position?
Again, rules
And he's
don't
like,
apply
I'm
to
the
him.
Pope.
Yeah, exactly. They
Not
don't.
only that, but he was like, so you're going to keep your position, but she's just going to be following you around. Mm-hmm. She's just going to report everything back to me. And so that idea, I think, is almost creepier than if maybe he had put her in charge.
Right.
Because, again, there's no responsibility. I can just trip you up. I'll know everything
Exactly.
you're doing.
That's
and
a
at
good
any time,
point.
I can just roadblock you into failing majorly.
Right.
And then I still get everything I want. He's good. He plays the game well.
I know.
I'm
Smart.
hoping, I think the next best thing, because honestly, Voyello, I think he's smart. I don't think he's nearly smart enough for this guy. I'm
Yeah.
hoping we need more people who are going to be on his level of intelligence and can play the game at his same level. It's the same thing that happened with Frank in season 2 of House of Cards.
All right.
No one was prepared, and then it was a total train wreck.
Well, we don't have much time left, so really quick, can we go into predictions for next episode?
And now,
This is going to be so
your
hard,
AfterBuzz
so I hope
TV.
you guys have some good... I know we've been talking about predictions, but
Yes.
what do you think is going to happen next episode?
Okay, so I think Priest Trevigeno is going to come back in a big way. I think that he is our smart counterpoint guy. I think Sister Mary is going to start exercising some of it, like flexing her strength on everybody and seeing how far she can push and what she's going to be able to be capable of, because I think there'll definitely be some clapbacks from people of like, who is this woman walking around here like she can take charge. But most importantly, I'm looking forward to seeing oh crud, I can't remember his name. The guy who was gonna cut his wrist.
Cromwell, James Cromwell, Spencer.
Yes. Cardinal Michael Spencer. I want to get Cardinal Michael Spencer's story, and I feel like now that he has been forced to live, perhaps he will now choose to take some action and maybe try to right this wrong. How? I don't know, but I look forward to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any predictions?
Well, I
Al?
was going to echo, I think we're definitely going to see more about their relationship, his relationship with James Cromwell, his mentor. And then I kind of predicted this, but I kind of cheated like the IMDb. The girl in the flashback.
Yeah.
By the pond, with their top
Yes.
off. I think we're going to find out more about her and that temptation and, that
I mean,
whole
we already
backstory.
know he's very cool. He's like, y'all should masturbate and have sex for things beyond procreation.
Yeah, we forgot to address that.
And the nuns need to have to he was just a full liberal pope, which is crazy because the things he's saying, I'm like, yes, get it. But then when we see who he really is, I'm like, oh no, you should not have any say at all. So it will be interesting to see if maybe he's like, screw it, I'm the pope, and if I want to have sex, I'm gonna just do it.
I mean, all that's got to come out at some point. For those of you guys, we didn't, to clarify, this is going on in the opening dream sequence,
Yes.
where he's having this, giving this fake homily.
Yes.
Imagine homily, and where he's talking about we should allow gay marriage and we should allow sex and masturbation and plan for pregnancy and all that and
Babies, the way science has discovered and will continue to discover. Divorce. He's pro-divorce. And abortion and masturbation. Like, this pope was ready to change everything.
and then he wakes up.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we will have to keep all of our rest of our thoughts until next week's episode. So thanks so much for joining us, guys. Remember, you can tune in to our live feed during our after show. Make sure you like, comment on our videos, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes. And I'm Jessie Zahner. You can find me all over social media at Athletic.
Hey guys, also if you comment in the iTunes, I stay monitoring those. We can only see the ones in the United States, but if you give us 5 stars and leave us a nice comment, we will shout you out. But I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique, every week at blackgirlnerds.com. If you head over to my Twitter page now, you can check out why I think TV beat film in 2016.
Hey everybody, I'm Al Gragg. You can find me on Instagram at alg_Jamaica House Film, and then also Twitter at SoundClashCine.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Comment. We will write to you on YouTube. We'll see you next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.